And good Wednesday evening to you all out there in WyoNation. This is the WyoNation Roundup. I am your host, Chad Smith, and I am joined tonight by Mr. Bryan Stevens. Good evening, Bryan.
Howdy, Chad.
And the order tonight, even though we're smacking the dab in the middle of summer, we're here to talk a little Wyoming basketball. So within what? It's been a good 10 to 14 days maybe now. The basketball roster has been completed. New head coach Sundance Wicks has completed the roster, and we're now at 13 scholarship players. So we thought this would be a good time before we really start drilling into football because July is just around the corner. So here's a good time before we get into football, talk a little basketball. And so welcome on in, everybody. You can watch us here on X/Twitter, whatever you want to call it. But the best way to interact with us is to head on over to the YouTube channel. So it's youtube.com/@WyoNation. And there is a chat function where you can interact with us live there on the chat. You can ask questions. We get to put up your comments. It's the best way to watch this stream. X is good too. I'll monitor our notifications, that is, if there's any questions, any comments out there. But we'll see. And you know what? This post, we just went live and we got a like from a certain head coach who may coach a team who wears brown and gold. So if you're watching Sundance, welcome on in. Hopefully we don't say anything too ridiculous about the players you brought in. But yeah, so I'll be monitoring Twitter. I'll be monitoring the stream, and we're just going to just break this down. Let's throw up the roster, Bryan, in case people have forgotten who we're dealing with.
I hope they haven't forgotten. It hasn't been that long.
I know.
It was a whirlwind there for a minute, though. We had guys that transferred out, and then we had guys come in, and then Coach Linder decided to take the Texas Tech job, and we had a bunch of guys jump back in the portal. Coach Wicks came in and filled this out pretty quick and got some really quality players in not a lot of time. It was really impressive.
Yeah, you really had no choice. All right, let's see here. It always takes a minute because it makes you know that you're very careful, that people will see your screen if you hit this button. And I'm like, yes, I'm well aware. All right, here we go. So we're all zoomed in. We will do this in alphabetical order. I've got some notes. I'm sure Bryan's very knowledgeable as well. First one is Obi Agbim out of Fort Lewis, the school in Colorado. And
So if the school sounds familiar to you guys, this is where we got a Quail Cott.
Exactly.
That came in last year too. And he was, I think we can all agree, pretty phenomenal. Like he shut down a couple of games for us, got those game-winning shots against CSU, and I think Nevada was the other one. Really reliable shooter, pretty good ball handler, and we plucked him from Fort Lewis last year, and it was a really good move. So I'm sure Coach Wicks and the rest of the staff are hoping that Agnew is going to give us the same kind of energy. He was a guy that had committed to Linder before he took off, entered back into the portal, and the new coaching staff was able to get him to come back. So I think that was a really good move. I'm pretty excited to see him back on the roster.
Here we go. And I just found they got a new setup here for screen sharing there. So a little bigger here for us. Be next to that. But yeah, I was going to say, obviously, Agbim did commit under Linder, decommitted, had to be re-recruited by Sundance Wicks. He is in the fold. Some of my notes on him, just looking at his highlights from Fort Lewis, is he can shoot and penetrate. So he can kind of do both. He seems pretty athletic, and he seems like a pretty good ball handler. His stats last year, 15.5 points a game, 4 rebounds, and 2.9 assists. And you mentioned Cotton. That's my big question is, can he have as big of an impact as Cott, who came in here last year, hit big shots, but averaged 14 points a game.
Yeah, so Agbem, it looks like, for a guard, he's shooting 44%, which is phenomenal for a guard. Like, you usually see those kind of numbers coming from people that play a little more inside. So that's pretty decent. 35.5% three-point shooter, doing really well. The thing that I think we missed last year that he's going to bring is he's an 84% free throw shooter. There were a lot of games last year that could have ended up the other way if we would have made the freebies. And it's nice to see we've got a guy that's coming in that's pretty focused on those.
Yeah, I forgot to look at that on some of these guys. Obviously, Wyoming really struggled from the free throw line at times last year, and it did. You're right; it did cost them games, in my opinion. So Agbem's a guy to really. I don't know. We'll see what he can do. He's athletic enough. Like anything, it's going to be, can he come in and play defense at this level, which I don't think is a huge question mark because that's more of an effort thing usually.
And I don't think we're going to be lacking effort this year for sure.
100%.
So I know that I saw that Brady Hull at the I forget what the radio station is, but he's in Greeley. He just did an interview with Coach Wicks that's going up tomorrow. He said he was ready to run through a wall. And that's just kind of the effect he seems to have on people.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, so he's doing that, and then now that you mentioned that interview, I saw that he was slated to actually be doing an interview in Green Bay, which I found pretty odd and interesting. So he's going to go back there and be on their airwaves on the radio, breaking down what he's done too. So that just shows you what type of guy he is, and then that they wanted him back to talk to him.
Yeah, that I think it really goes to show what kind of person Coach Wicks is. And that this decision wasn't easy, and he's sorry that he had to leave Green Bay, but he's happy where he's at, and it's pretty cool to see a coach going back to their former school to give an interview after they've left.
Mm-hmm. All right, next up alphabetically here, and this is a very interesting one. Dante Allen, 6'6", 210, a guard, also a senior, via Western Kentucky, via the University of Kentucky. I have a lot to say about this guy, but I'll just say this might be one of the most decorated high school players to ever play for the University of Wyoming.
Yeah, a lot of offers coming out of school. Obviously signed with Calipari and the Kentucky Wildcats. Didn't catch on there, which is, it happens. You're on a team full of superstars. Sometimes there's just not enough minutes to go around. Spent the last few years at Western Kentucky. I think he had another stop in there somewhere. I'm not finding where off the top of my head, but played really well at Western Kentucky. He was 21 minutes a game, 40% shooter, 40% from three last year, which is great. And another guy that's pretty good free throw shooter. So only 8.2 points per game. Looks like there were some limited minutes, but this guy's got a really high ceiling.
Yeah. And the reason that I say he's one of the most highly decorated players to come to Wyoming ever is because in high school, he was Mr. Basketball in the state of Kentucky, which is a big deal, of course.
Yeah, not an easy thing to do.
Yeah, I got a lot of stats here on this guy. Found just basketball analytics is really interesting, and the way they break down shot locations and types of shots and setups of passes and stuff. Here were his strengths last year at Western Kentucky. He was a 60% shooter in catch and shoot. So that is his number one strength, is he can catch the ball and fire off a shot. Now, if you look at this guy's highlights, his shot is very interesting. It is so smooth, and it's slow. If you watch it, some shots, the ball is just, it glides through the air. He's very smooth. So if you haven't checked him out, just Google Dante Allen highlights. You'll see he shoots a very nice ball. Other stats here, Brian. We've got 44% shooting at the rim. 33% from left 3-point near the top, and then 42 from the right at the top. So it's crazy how they break these all down now. And then, but his big one is he shoots 50% from the left corner on threes.
Hey, the corners are the money balls, man. Every good shooter is pretty automatic from the corners.
So yeah, he put up some good numbers there, and I don't think I have his minutes written down last year. I do. He did 8.2 points and 3 rebounds a game last year for Western Kentucky, who I do believe, did they make the tournament last year?
Oh, that sounds right.
Yeah. I'm pretty sure they did.
Yeah.
Yep, and he's from Falmouth, Kentucky. So yeah, really excited to see how he fits in with this Wyoming basketball team. Excited to see him here. He's obviously got talent. We'll see. Oh, I guess you're right. I think it is 15 minutes a game. My notes between players are running over.
You're good, man.
Okay. So we'll see. And then we'll talk about more later. I know on the message boards, Brian's been hypothesizing starting lineups. So maybe we'll get to that in the end, like who's in the mix to really start. Next one is another guy who originally committed to Coach Linder. I don't think he decommitted at any point.
No, he stuck around.
He stuck around, and that is Matija Belic, a 6'7", 205 forward, a junior from Belgrade, Serbia, via the University of California, Santa Barbara.
So calling him a forward, if you watch his game, is a little misleading. He's a small forward. He's a wing player. He's going to play outside more often than not.
True, 100%. I did look at his limited minutes, so he averaged 15 minutes a game last year, 3.9 points, 2.4 rebounds, shot 44% from the field for UCSB. And they actually did play 2 Mountain West teams last year. He had a somewhat decent game and then a very bad game. Fresno State, he played them, 23 minutes, 8 points. And then New Mexico later in the season, 21 minutes, 0 points. So he doesn't have a whole lot of experience, but being a Euro, he obviously fits into the Euroball model, which we're going to still see here with Coach Wicks.
Yeah. Well, UCSB didn't have a great season last year. They had AJ Mitchell was a really good player. Belic played in almost every game. So he was definitely a contributor. Didn't stuff the stat sheet, but he's a guy he's always moving. He's always hustling. You know, he's not going to be your points leader, rebounds leader any game, but he's going to facilitate for a lot of people around him.
Yeah, I think he'll be in the rotation for sure, much like he was for the University of California, Santa Barbara. All right, we'll move on to the next player. And we'll just see here that we do have, as we go down the roster, here's 2 returning players, which is interesting. And Levi Brown, a walk-on, obviously, and then Nigel Cook, who did redshirt last year. So he
played in a game, maybe 2. I know he played in the exhibitions. He was pretty raw, but he comes from, DME Academy is a really good school.
It is,
and this guy's got really great size for a guard, so I'll be interested to see how he fits in. He kind of got lost in the shuffle last season behind, our just stacked guard unit behind all those guys. So
it could be a similar problem this year, but we'll talk more about that later. All right, next up is a player I'm really excited about, and that is Scotty Abube, 6'10", 275. He's a senior. He's a junior. He comes to us from Southern Illinois, where last year he averaged 6 points a game, 3.6 rebounds in 12 minutes. But he shot 69% from the field last year, being a post player. A lot to like about him. I got quite a more thoughts about him, but your initial reaction to seeing what you've seen from Abube.
this is a piece we were missing after EK took off. We didn't really have a good, solidly built post player that could throw his weight around. Caden Powell was pretty good, but he was more of a soft touch guy than a banger. Abubi's got the size and the physicality to really bring something that we were missing here. I'd expect this guy to be competing for a starting spot. He will probably start some games, I would guess. I don't think he's probably going to be a constant in the starting lineup, but he's a big body. He's got really good touch around the rim. This is a good player to have.
Yeah, 100%. I know I talked to some Southern Illinois fans after he left, and they were kind of sad to see him go. They said he just didn't get a lot of playing time because they played in a system where the head coach really favored, a guard-heavy lineup. So he was really efficient and kind of plays into this money ball thing that you've heard lately of just finding underrated guys who have shown that if given an opportunity, they can do a lot of different things for teams. I do have on here that, hey, man, he's 6'10" and 275, but if you watch his highlights, he is not immobile. He is pretty athletic for a guy his size, and he can move.
Yeah. No, he's a really good modern day center. He's not going to step out. You're not going to see him shooting threes like a Hunter Thompson did a few years ago. No. He's going to be in the paint. He's going to be in the paint. He's going to stay in the paint, and he's going to make people wish they weren't in the paint when he's in.
Yeah. And I saw he had a good mix of, in the highlight tape I saw, which was pretty long, the first half of his highlights were all front facing scoring opportunities that he capitalized on. And then the last half was post play. So he's pretty good facing the basket because he's not just a banner. He's pretty athletic for a guy his size. So he's going to provide some mismatches for people down low for sure. All right, next up, let me flip my sheet here. And we have another person who will be vowing for one of the post positions, and that is Cole Henry. He is a graduate transfer, so he has only one more year left as well. 6'9", 240, coming to us from Northern Iowa University. And this guy really seems like a glue guy.
Yeah, this is the maturity of the team right here. This is a guy, he was at Northern Iowa for all 4 years, came in as a grad transfer this year to us, played in every game last year. He wasn't a double machine by any means, but he was a double-digit scorer for the last couple of years. He's more of a 4 than a center, though I do think we'll see him probably get more minutes just because of his maturity. He's a guy that I would expect to see in the starting lineup from day one.
Okay, yeah. And we'll talk more about that later. It's very interesting, too. He seems very versatile. A feature that I saw. We good there?
Yeah, cats are screwing around.
Okay. I'm like, when animals attack, see a cat come flying onto your head or something.
Right.
He was actually a high school quarterback, and he points that out to allowing him in basketball to be a good passer. And you see some of his highlights. I mean, for a guy his size, he is a really good passer. And I think maybe that's why he kind of fits into our system a little better. And that's why he may start. He's versatile. He's good in the pick and roll. He's mobile. And he actually, in high school, kind of played point forward and did a little of that for Northern Iowa. He can bring the ball up the court at 6'9", 240. So having ball handlers at multiple positions just to divide that up, it's good, right, to give guys a break, but also it adds to that unpredictable nature. If they don't know who's bringing the ball up, that really kind of messes with teams' defenses.
Yeah, and it just keeps going back to that maturity level of who this guy is. He's another one. He's not going to take the game over for you, but his basketball IQ is super high. He's got really good court awareness. He's got really good not just court awareness of what the other team is doing. If you watch his tape, he's really good at switches, really good at communicating on defense, and he is more likely to look for an open passing lane than an open shot, which is not a bad thing to have as a forward. Sometimes you get those guys that are, they're going to suck up the ball every time you pass it to him. This is not one of those guys.
100%. So there's Cole Henry. All right, next up on the roster here is one of the few returning players that actually played last year, and Oleg Kionets.
Yeah, Koyenets last year, he was kind of a situational player, but there were a few games where you saw what he could do. He's a tall guy. He's not a big guy. He's more of he's not going to be the banger that Abubi is, but he is going to provide some height inside. He's got good timing on his shot blocking, and he's got a really typical Euro style shot when he gets inside. He's got a good Euro step. He's got a good fade away. He's got a good jump hook. I think we'll see quite a bit of him this year. He was kind of spotty last year, but I think it was more the system than it was the player.
Yeah. So if you see right here in a row, we got 3 guys that are going to be competing to play at that 5 spot for sure. Even though only one of them is a traditional 5, but you understand these days how college basketball is operated. All right, next up, another transfer comes to us from St. Louis University. He redshirted last year, actually didn't play at all. Took me a while to find some stuff on this guy, but I was able to dig it up. Abu Magasa, 6'7", 215. He's a redshirt freshman. What we see here, he comes to us from France, where he played in the professional league there in the under-20 league. And for the under-20 league, I'm trying to see if this is the right stats. I think it is. I think he averaged, well, no, I don't have any points. Oh, no, 11 and 5. There it is. Sorry. He averaged 11 points and 5 rebounds a game playing in the under-20 professional league in France. And he is your typical, I guess, European forward. He's a stretch 4. That's what he's going to be. And he looks like he's a pretty good passer, can shoot the 3. So once you see him, he's going to be more in the mold of the stretch 4 that you see from the Euros.
Yeah, these are good players to have, especially if we run the system that everybody wants to see us run, where it's, getting the ball down the floor, running the other team to the ground, since we're at 72-20. These are the kind of guys you want. He's not going to be a big guy rumbling down the court like an Abubi or a Caden Powell. He's going to be nimble. He's going to be quick, and he's going to be able to move the ball around quite a bit. I don't know that we'll see a ton of him this year as a redshirt freshman. He'll see minutes. He'll see minutes for sure. But this is a guy that we can get excited about for the long term.
Yeah, and I think especially early, we'll see early in the season, I think it's going to be fascinating, like it was last year, with so many new players, just to see how all the pieces fit and to see how Coach Wicks sees that this is going to work, because there's going to be a lot of opportunity there. And it's going to be up to the players to earn that playing time and to impress the coach's staff to play, because it's pretty much a clean slate for everybody.
Yeah. All
right, next up, another person that I'm pretty excited about, and that is Jordan Nesbitt, also a senior, 6'6", 210, comes to us, and get this, with the old COVID and the transfer rules, this is Wyoming. It's actually going to be his 4th school. He comes to us from Hampton via St. Louis, via the University of Memphis.
Yeah, and we forgot to mention Obi Agman has basically done the same thing. He went from D3 to D2. He was at Metro State. Then he was at Fort Lewis, and now he's at Wyoming. Obi's a guy that ground his way up there. Jordan's a guy that had a little bit of a different path. Ran into a little bit of controversy with his some things that he said on the court when he was it was with Memphis or St. Louis. I'm pretty sure it was Memphis.
Yeah.
I know there are some people that are worried about that, but as I said on the board, there's a guy named Leonard Washington that we had a few years ago that had some issues with the way he was playing and got a little bit of heat for things that he had done on the floor, and he turned out pretty well for us.
Mm-hmm. So Nesbitt is a small forward who is a slasher. That's how I would describe him. And he can also handle the ball. He did that quite a bit for Hampton, kind of as like a point forward type of thing. So another guy could handle the ball. He's a slasher. He's a versatile player. Let's see, 10 points per game last season, 4.9 rebounds and 4.3 assists. But the year before at Hampton, he averaged 14.9 points as a junior. So of all the guys that's coming in, he's one of the few guys who has actually scored in double figures on a regular basis.
Yeah, and he's another one that if you look at the prior year, he had 6.3 rebounds and 3.3 assists a game too. This guy's got a ton of talent.
Mm-hmm.
Just an absolute, just a crazy amount of talent for this dude. If he can put it together on the floor, he's going to be really scary.
Yeah, and that's why he started out at Memphis, right? They don't just recruit anybody down there. So, yeah, I'm really excited about him, and I would imagine he's one of the few players I think is almost a surefire starter.
I would agree with that.
But we'll see. He'll have to earn it still. All right, next one, another guy I'm very excited about. But I guess we can mention right here, we got two guys returning. Obviously, Kobe Newton comes back as a senior. He was very
Newton's a guy to get excited about too.
Yeah.
He had that staph infection in his foot last year. He was the first guy off the bench a lot of the time. He's a 3-and-D guy. Really good defensive player, great shooter. He's going to be a big piece of the puzzle. It's a shame that his season got cut short last year because he was playing really well.
Yeah. We'll see. And then another walk-on in Court Robinson, who is a fan favorite.
Court's the man. And it's so nice to hear everybody cheer when he gets in the game and the bench goes crazy when he makes a shot. And I will say that, he was one of the hard hat. No, it was him and Grigsby and the guys at the end of the bench. I forget what they called themselves.
Yeah. The
that kind of went away when
the bench boys or something like that.
What's that?
Like the bench boys or something like that.
Yeah, but that kind of went away when Sundance went up to Green Bay. So I would expect we'll see that coming back, and the bring your own juice mentality and really firing each other up and supporting each other when you're not on the floor. I think we'll see a lot more of that this year.
Mm-hmm. All right, and then we have someone I didn't dig into much. Javon Starwood is one of the few high school players that stayed on board.
He is the high school player that stayed on board.
Yeah, I think you're right. Yeah, the only one. He comes to us from Oswego, Illinois, and I didn't really dig much into him. What can you tell us about Starwood?
I had researched him a bunch for the initial signing class it was months ago now.
Yeah, like last fall.
So he's not a guy that I focused on it because we were talking about the transfers for this one. We're glad he's here though. Like guard depth is good, and having freshmen on the team is also a very good thing. So thank God he's here.
All right, 2 to go. This one here coming from not too far away from Wyoming, coming to us from the University of Denver via Helsinki, Finland, and that is Toko Tainamo. It took me forever to find how to pronounce that, but I found it eventually. So yeah, Toko Tainamo comes to us from the University of Denver. He is a pioneer, and again, he's got some good numbers. For the Pioneers last year, 15.2 points a game, 7.7 rebounds, shot 46.7%, 60% at the rim, and he is a 54% catch and shoot player. So he's a power forward, but he can play both inside and outside.
Yeah, he's a stretch four. He's going to be one of our I think he's going to be one of our offensive focuses. He's going to be a guy that's going to be pouring in a lot of points for us. He's going to be shining glass for us. He's going to be a big time player. This was a good pickup. I'm glad that Coach Wicks was able to get him to stick around. He's going to be a really exciting player.
100%. And there's a lot of film out of him. So if you are interested, you can look at his game. I agree. I would say he's got a very high chance to be our leading scorer this year.
He is a really good example of what a Euro 4 looks like. Like he's not a guy that's going to lean too far to playing outside and ignore the inside or not stepping out enough when he's down in the paint. He's got a really good balance of playing outside, playing inside, and the guy can take over a game if you let him.
Sure. And then
during the Summit League Championship, if he wasn't the leading scorer, he was close. Oh no, that was I'm looking at the wrong stats. Never mind.
Okay. Abort mission.
Yeah.
But yeah, someone to really look forward to. I'm glad that we got him. And as I said, just a lot of film on him out there. Look it up. I think you'll be pretty impressed. All right. The last one would be AJ Willis, 6'2", 160. So he's a skinny guy. He's a sophomore coming to us as a sophomore guard from Holy Cross. He is from Richmond, Virginia. He played 16 minutes a game last year for Holy Cross, averaged 5.5 points, shot 36% from three. From what I watched, he looks like a pretty good player who can create his own shot, which is always important to have players who can do that.
This guy's a really interesting story too.
All right.
Because he's not just a basketball player. He was in Shooting Stars. He was with that's the movie based on LeBron James's high school career. He played he played one of the teammates. He was Willie McGee in that. He also starred in the Apple TV series Swagger, which I'm pretty sure was based off of Kevin Durant's AAU ball. I don't have Apple TV Plus. I haven't seen it, but it's really interesting to see where he's coming from. And it's neat to see that a guy that they're casting in these basketball movies is a D1 caliber player. So it'll be kind of cool to see how this goes.
Yeah. And from just looking at how he plays and his size, I guess my big question on this team is I'm kind of worried about point guard. And he seems to be about the closest thing we have to a pure point guard. And again, I don't know how much that matters in Wick's system. I guess we'll see. But your thoughts on him as a point or a shooting guard, and who else is in the mix?
He's definitely a point.
Okay.
He's a quick guy. He's got good handles. He facilitates well. Still pretty young. Still has a lot of growing to do, but we'll see him on the court this year, and we'll see him make some plays.
All right. So there you go. There is the roster. Kind of our thoughts breaking this down. We will go ahead and kill this share. If it will let me. How do I always forget how to kill it? Go away. How does it? I think I can just close it and it goes away. Aha. Efficiency. All right. So it's going to be really fascinating. A lot of parts here. A lot of players who, right, given the opportunity, given the right system, can come in and I think plug away. What's fascinating to me is a lot of these guys were backups on their teams, and now they're going to be given the chance to step up and get more minutes because it's going to be needed, right?
Yeah.
So I don't know how it's going to play out. We'll see who steps up, who impresses the coaches. We'll see how flexible they are, right? And I think you're going to see that more from what Wicks is talking about, kind of a sum of all parts type of thing. With Linder, I think he kind of liked to have like two of the same type of things, right? To just do this plug and play. But with Wicks, I think you're going to kind of see more of you might see a lot of different starting lineups because we're going to use players to go against the weaknesses of other teams. And that may not be a consistent starting five every night.
Yeah. And you heard from players at Green Bay and from Wicks himself when he was at Green Bay, his coaching style is focus on the other team's weakness. So shut down what's going to work for them and let their weaknesses be what beats you. So much like when we played Air Force last year, and I forget the guy who it was, but he went off and had like 7 threes. The guy had only made 7 threes in his entire career up to that point. That's the kind of coaching style we're going to see. You're not gonna let Rydas Petratus, whip you like he has everybody else. We're going to make somebody else beat us and really take other teams out of their game. To do that, you got to have kind of a deep bench, and I think we're going to see that this year because. Honestly, this is probably going to shape up to be a tough year. Yeah. We were about 500 last year. I'd expect us to be about 500 this year. What I will say is I think it's going to be a heck of a lot more fun to watch, and I think the players are going to be a lot more engaged this season, especially these guys coming in that maybe this is the most playing time that they're going to see, and they're going to be hungry. And that's something that we need.
Yeah. Yeah, as I said, these guys are a lot of coming in bit roles, and they're going to have a chance to be, big contributors. And so, yeah, it's just going to be fascinating. I do see that we do have a comment from Coach Wicks. It says, "Get after it, fellas. Love to see this. #HTBag."
Thanks for watching, Coach. We appreciate you. We're really excited.
So there we go. So the coach himself, as we said, checking us out, so we appreciate that. All right, so I don't know. I know we're in June. Basketball season is far away, but your best guess at what we might see as a starting five when we roll the ball out onto the court?
So my initial reaction is it's going to be upperclassmen. Mm-hmm. It's going to be guys that have seen it. Like, I will be shocked if Tynamo isn't starting. That guy's a lock, in my opinion. I'd also be pretty surprised if we didn't see Obi Agman starting, based on what he did in college and what we saw from Cott last year. That's a guy that needs to be in the starting lineup.
Okay.
Cole Henry's another one. He's a fifth-year player. He's a grad transfer. He's got a lot of experience, really high basketball IQ. I would expect we see him down there. Although I wouldn't be as surprised to see Scotty Abubi get quite a decent load of minutes. We'll see him and Koyanets both quite a bit in the post. I'm pretty sure. Maybe one more than another, depending on the game situation. But the old saying is you can't coach size. And when you've got guys with size like that, you have to utilize them. So they will be in the game.
All right, so that's 3 spots, right?
Mm-hmm.
2 left.
So I'm kind of torn on the next one. So it's in the guard slot. I think that we're going to see either Dante Allen or Kobe Newton. And whichever one doesn't start is going to be the first guy off the bench. My gut tells me it's going to be Newton, but Allen has just got a tremendous ceiling. And gun to my head, I'd probably say that Allen's going to see more starts than Newton this year, but I think Newton's going to start off being the guy.
Okay, that's kind of the 2/3, kind of interchangeable in this system.
Yeah, and then I think Jordan Nesbitt's going to be in there starting too.
Okay, so you think?
So I think it's going to be Newton or Allen at the 2, or at one of the guard spots, and then Agbem and Nesbitt are the other 2 that will start.
Okay, yeah,
that's my guess.
Yeah, and it may not be traditional, right? So Agbem may be kind of running the point, but you got other guys. Allen, I think, can handle the ball well. Nesbitt can. So yeah, that's what I was saying. It's fascinating to see how they have a plan, obviously, and they're not going to tell us, but we'll get to see it soon enough.
Yeah. One thing I will predict is I don't think we're going to have anybody redshirt this year.
Really?
Looking at the roster, we have 6 players that this is the last year of basketball they've got. That's Agbem, Allen, Henry, Nesbitt, Newton, and Dynamo.
Okay.
This is the last year for all 6 of those guys.
Yep.
So behind them, we've got 2 walk-ons with Brown and Roberson.
Mm-hmm.
And then 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 other players.
Sure. I see where you're coming from. Right. And that keeps everybody happy to where hopefully they don't transfer, right? Because, right, we've done this back-to-back years with complete roster overhauls. Now we're going to have another one next year pretty much no matter what, just because you got 6 guys who won't be able to come back.
Yeah. Well, and Coach Wicks said in every interview he's given, he knows that he's going to lose half his team every year. That's just the way basketball is now.
Yeah.
The transfer portal for basketball is a heck of a lot different than the transfer portal in football because 1 or 2 guys can make a huge difference in basketball where, if you get a star receiver or a star quarterback in football, that can only take you so far.
Mm-hmm.
So there's a lot of movement in college basketball. I did see that the NCAA Rules Committee is looking at changing the transfer portal from 45 days to 30 days for basketball. We'll see how that goes. I think most of it gets done in 30 days for people entering the portal. Like there were some very late entries. One of them being, as Shea Foster mentioned, that the freshman of the year that transferred out of the Mountain West was that Toppin or was that Aduji at Utah State? I forget which one it was.
Didn't they both transfer?
They did, but I forget which one was the freshman of the year.
Oh, I think it was the guy at Utah State.
Okay, so yeah, that was Josh Aduji, who ended up at San Jose State and very well.
Did he? Oh, I didn't see that. Okay, interesting. Yeah, I think he might have been talking about when he mentions the freshman of the year, and I'll just pot this up. I think he's talking about the Green Bay freshman of the year, David Douglas Jr., who actually is going to be in the Mountain West. He transferred to Fresno.
Yeah.
So it's interesting. He was on Coach Wisk's roster last year at Green Bay. I think he averaged about 11 points a game as a freshman for him. And I thought that he was going to come here for sure, but that did not happen.
Yeah. I mean, you can't win them all.
No. So, yeah, I think it's a talented roster, but a lot of pieces to put together quickly. And I think that's where Coach Wicks will probably excel more than most coaches because he's going to get these guys to buy in a lot quicker than some other coaches may not.
But again, anybody that's expecting us to hoist the trophy at the Mountain West tournament this year, you better temper your expectations a little bit. Coach Wicks is great. He's going to do a great job. But this is a coach that came in, had 0 time to recruit high school guys, had to lean on the portal for everything. I think things are going to gel a whole lot better next year after he has time to put a full class together. Not that this is a bad class. This is, all things considered, this is pretty darn good. So it's going to be an exciting year. It's going to be a fun year. The players are going to be bought in. The coach is – we're going to see Coach Wicks all over the place, man. And it'll be good to see him driving some engagement where it's been lacking the last couple of years. It'll be good to get the dome rocking again.
For sure. I'm trying to think if there's anything else we need to hit here, but yeah, it's exciting times, a good roster. We'll see how the pieces come together, and there might be some prizes, right? We just don't know. That's what I think it's fascinating, and that's why I was fascinated at the beginning of last season too. But then I quickly lost interest.
So the beginning of last season was a lot of fun. I think we're going to see a lot more of that. And also, like, don't count us out of anything either. You'll remember Allen Edwards last year where we won like 8 games. 3 of those games were in the Mountain West tournament.
Sure, yeah.
Anything can happen on the hardwood, man. And it takes people buying in. And I don't think we're going to have any issues with any of these players buying into what Coach Wicks has to say or what the university is doing. We just need to be there to support. And I'm I'm sure that will come along as the success builds and as the energy around the program builds.
For sure. All right, so there is some basketball talk for you all in June. We will soon be flipping the calendar to the July, and we'll be laser focused on football, where we're just weeks away from fall camp opening up.
Also, weeks away from NCAA 25 coming out, man.
True.
That's pretty exciting.
And we'll have media days here in July in Vegas, which will always be big. We'll see what Wyoming players go there with Salvell, and we'll get to see Salvell as a head coach for the first time at media days. Yeah, and the video game is just gonna take the world by storm.
Absolutely.
Because it's been a long time since we've had it.
Yeah. So I'll predict the 2 players that are going with Salvell to media days. We're going to see Shea Suinoa on the defense, and I imagine it'll be Svoboda on the offense, but it could be Harrison Whaley.
Sure. Yeah, I could see that. On offense, for sure, it'll be one of those 2 guys. Defense, yeah, I don't know. It's so balanced. Shea may be the guy. Maybe a defensive lineman. I don't know.
Yeah, it could be Bert.
Yeah.
Bert Ignoli.
We'll see.
Yeah.
But it will be good.
Either way, football is going to be fun this year, too. It's a great year to be a Wyoming fan.
Yeah, and we'll have a lot to say. We're lining up some guests. We'll be doing some previews. It is going to be good, especially as all the lists are coming out now. Top 10s of positions and schools, and I've been getting hammered. I got mentioned in somebody mentioned some type of put the Wyoming schedule out and said, hey, how many wins? And all day people commenting on how many wins they think Wyoming will have this year. And I think the number's all over the place. I think anywhere from 3 to like 10.
So I'm on 9.
The answer is all over the board, but we'll get into that. Bryan has thoughts. I have thoughts. And of course, Brad has thoughts. When Brad gets back off the road, we'll have a show next week talking about some football. So, all right, Bryan. Well, thank you for stopping by and talking some round ball.
Yeah, thanks for having me. Thanks for tuning in, guys. Go Pokes.
Yeah. So we will see you all soon. For Bryan, I'm Chad Smith. Thank you for watching the WyoNation Roundup. We'll catch you again soon.